Okay na. Ito ba? Okay na ta.
Session is now called to order. Everybody please rise for a short prayer to be led by the Honorable Representative of this Lone District of Iloilo City. Please proceed.
Let us put ourselves in the presence of the Lord. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. God Almighty, we come to you with gratitude for gathering all of us. Thank you for keeping us safe from the virus that has affected the world. We also thank you for healing those who have been afflicted with it. And as we offer our prayers for those who have passed on because of the coronavirus disease. Ramadan has just ended for our Islam believers. The Holy Week of the Catholic came ahead of it, and we were made to realize by these sacred occasions not only for our mortality, but of the goodness that we must share while we are here on earth. That we should spread kindness, tolerance, respect, and love. And so we pray that you make us instruments of divine love, justice, and peace through the legislative measures and actions that we will do. Help us to think of and to do something for those in the outskirts and the marginalized. Father, may we live up to be the Congress of the Filipino that we should be. Anoint our House leadership, Speaker, Majority Floor Leader, and everyone here in the House of Representatives to be the men and women for others, to always stand up for what is right and just, to speak for the oppressed and the voiceless. We summon your blessing for the three branches of the government to work efficiently, harmoniously, and productively together for a better Philippines. A Philippines that is economically progressive, where the people have their hearts filled with love and happiness. Father, we thank you for all the graces and blessings you continue to bestow upon us. Guide this August Chamber on God as we resume our session. Lead us to be the leaders this nation needs at this hour. Fill us with your light, hope, and love. In Jesus' name, Amen.
Everybody please remain standing for the singing of the national anthem.
Bayang magiliw, perlas ng silanganan, alam ng puso, sa titik mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, duyan ka ng magiting, sa manlulupit, di ka pasisingil, sa dagat at bundok, sa simo
Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we defer the calling of the roll. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Motion is hereby approved. Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we defer the approval of the journal of the previous session. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Motion is hereby approved. Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we perform the referral business. Would the Secretary General be directed to read the title of bills and resolutions on first reading, as well as communications and committee reports? So move, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. The Secretary General may proceed.
Reference of business, bills on first reading. House Bill number 9152, providing for special emergency leave for all workers in the public and private sector who experience any COVID-19 vaccine side effects, by Representative Tan Angelina.
To the Committee on Civil Service and Professional Regulation and the Committee of Labor and Employment.
House Bill number 9156, declaring April 4 of every year as a special non-working holiday in Antipolo City, Rizal, in commemoration of its cityhood anniversary, by Representative Puno.
To the Committee on Local Government.
House Bill number 9157, renaming the Literacy Coordinating Council to National Literacy Council, strengthening its powers and functions, expanding its membership structure and support mechanisms, by Representative Romulo.
To the Committee on Basic Education and Culture.
House Bill number 9158, renaming the Panikihan National High School in Gumaca, Quezon as the Pablo L. Mercado National High School, by Representative Tan Angelina.
To the Committee on Basic Education and Culture.
House Bill number 9159, recognizing the heroism of frontline workers during the COVID-19 pandemic, erecting a monument to be known as the Bantayog ng mga bayaning frontliners, and observing a National Day of Mourning and Remembrance for every year for this purpose, by Representative Lopez.
To the Committee on Health.
House Bill number 9160, strengthening the traditional and complementary medicine system, by Representative Tan Angelina.
The Committee on Health.
House Bill number 9161, providing for third tranche of the Social Amelioration Program, by Representative Castelo.
To the Committee on Poverty Alleviation.
House Bill number 9162, mandating all public and private primary and secondary schools to include media, information, and education, including the responsible use of the Internet in their curriculum, by Representative De Los Santos.
To the Committee on Basic Education and Culture.
House Bill number 9163, providing social security benefits for barangay officials and volunteer workers, by Representative De Los Santos.
To the Committee on Local Government.
House Bill number 9164, institutionalizing sustainable coastal tourism, by Representative De Los Santos.
To the Committee on Tourism.
House Bill number 9165, extending the life of the Philippine Aerospace Development Corporation by another 50 years, by Representatives Singson Mihan and Tupas.
To the Committee on Government Enterprises and Privatization.
House Bill number 9166, establishing a COVID-19 emergency cash grant to rural farmers and municipal fisherfolk living below the poverty line, by Representative Tambunting.
To the Committee on Poverty Alleviation.
House Bill number 9167, providing subsidies and other incentives for indigent public utility drivers in the payment of fees and charges for certain certificates and clearances required by the LTO in applying for a professional driver's license, by Representative Tambunting.
To the Committee on Transportation.
House Bill number 9168, implementing a lifeline rate for internet services, by Representative Tambunting.
To the Committee on Information and Communications Technology.
House Bill number 9169, establishing a moratorium on aging out of foster care during the state of public health emergency due to the COVID-19 pandemic and for 6 months thereafter by Representative Tambunting.
to the Committee on Welfare of Children,
House Bill Number 9170, defining and penalizing the crime of red tagging by Representative Tambunting.
to the Committee on Justice,
House Bill Number 9172, institutionalizing public-private partnership to ensure health security by Representative Robes.
to the Committee on Health,
House Bill Number 9173, establishing the Davao del Sur Sports Training Center in Digos City, Davao del Sur by Representative Cagas.
to the Committee on Youth and Sports Development,
House Bill Number 9174, establishing a fish port with ice plant and cold storage facility in Cabalagnan, Nueva Valencia, Guimaras by Representative Nava.
to the Committee on Aquaculture and Fisheries Resources,
House Bill Number 9176, renewing for another 25 years the franchise granted to Omninet Philippines Incorporated by Representative Hernandez.
to the Committee on Legislative Franchises,
House Bill Number 9181, institutionalizing the Philippine Ecosystem and Natural Capital Accounting System by Representative Legarda.
to the Committee on Natural Resources,
House Bill Number 9184, proposing the establishment, recognition, and strengthening of the Coconut Research Center for the Visayas by Representative Kari.
to the Committee on Agriculture and Food,
House Bill Number 9185, augmenting the stimulus package for COVID-19 response and recovery interventions by Representative Tambunting.
to the Committee on Economic Affairs and the Committee on Social Services,
House Bill Number 9186, to provide eating disorders awareness, prevention, and education among secondary and tertiary students, their parents, and guardians by Representative Tambunting.
to the Committee on Basic Education and Culture, and the Committee on Higher and Technical Education,
House Bill Number 9187, establishing an integrated utilization and promotion of folic acid, food fortification, and supplementation by Representative Tambunting.
the Committee on Health,
House Bill Numbers 9188 and 9207 to 9213, establishing e-libraries in certain barangays in Parañaque City by Representative Tambunting.
to the Committee on Basic Education and Culture,
House Bill Number 9189, defining and criminalizing COVID-19 vaccine queue jumping by Representative Tambunting.
to the Committee on Justice,
House Bill Number 9190, institutionalizing quarterly tree planting activity by Representative Barba.
to the Special Committee on Reforestation,
House Bill Number 9191, repealing the act granting San Miguel Aero City Incorporated a franchise to construct, develop, establish, operate, and maintain a domestic and international airport in Bulacan, Bulacan by Representatives Culyamat, Zarate, Gaite, Brosas, Castro France, and Elago.
to the Committee on Legislative Franchises,
House Bill Number 9192, amending the General Appropriations Act of 2021, repealing the 16.4 billion support to Barangay Development Program of the NTF-LCAC and allocating for the 15,000 financial support to the 1 million poorest Filipinos in the fisheries sector to pump prime the wheels of production by Representatives Culyamat, Zarate, Gaite, Brosas, Castro France, and Elago.
to the Committee on Appropriations,
House Bill Number 9193, declaring Paway Lake National Park in Paway, Ilocos Norte as a protected area under the Protected Landscape category by Representative Barba.
to the Committee on Natural Resources,
House Bill Number 9194, institutionalizing the Digital Legal Deposit System by Representative Garcia Pablojan.
to the Committee on Basic Education and Culture,
House Bill Number 9195, creating the Catanduanes Urban Development Authority by Representative Sanchez.
to the Committee on Government Enterprises and Privatization, and the Committee on Local Government,
House Bill Number 9196, to to further extend the effectivity of the provisions as well as the availability of appropriations under the Bayanihan to Recover as One Act by Representative Villafuerte.
To the Committee on Appropriations.
House Bill Number 9197, granting employees the right to disconnect from work-related electronic communications after work hours by Representative Vargas.
To the Committee on Labor and Employment.
House Bill Number 9198, amending the franchise granted to Universidad de Zamboanga by Representative Jimenez.
To the Committee on Legislative Franchises.
House Bill Number 9199, establishing the Virology Institute of the Philippines by Representative Chipeco.
To the Committee on Health and the Committee on Science and Technology.
House Bill Number 9200, amending Section 3 of ADAPA School Program by Representative Defensor Michael.
To the Committee on Basic Education and Culture and the Committee on Higher and Technical Education.
House Bill Number 9201, establishing a Senior Citizens Technology and Livelihood Center in every municipality in Davao del Sur by Representative Cagas.
To the Special Committee on Senior Citizens.
House Bill Number 9202, to protect the right of the people to information about sexual and reproductive health care services by Representative Vargas.
To the Committee on Health.
House Bill Number 9203, providing for the lifetime validity of PWD identification cards issued to persons with permanent disability by Representative Vargas.
To the Special Committee on Persons with Disabilities.
House Bill Number 9204, mandating LGUs to set aside at least 15% of their annual internal revenue allotments for local health services by Representative Tan Angelina.
To the Committee on Local Government.
House Bill Number 9214, to reform the budget process by enforcing greater accountability in public financial management by Representative Salceda.
To the Committee on Appropriations.
House Bill Number 9217, to enhance protection to municipal fishing and artisanal fisherfolks by establishing a 10-kilometer municipal fishing buffer zone beyond the 15-kilometer municipal waters by Representative Alvarez Franz.
To the Committee on Aquaculture and Fisheries Resources.
House Bill Number 9218, exempting from income tax compensation the honoraria and allowances given to teachers for serving as members of the Electoral Board for local or national elections by Representative Pimentel.
To the Committee on Ways and Means.
House Bill Numbers 9219 to 9222, declaring unclassified forest lands located in certain barangays in San Guillermo, Isabela, as alienable and disposable lands for agricultural, residential, and other commercial purposes by Representative D. Faustino Ino.
To the Committee on Natural Resources.
House Bill Number 9223, converting the LTO Extension Office at Sigma Capiz into a regular LTO District Office by Representative Castro Fredenil.
To the Committee on Transportation.
House Bill Number 9224, creating Barangay New Poblacion by Representative Chungalao.
To the Committee on Local Government.
House Bill Number 9225, separating the Caragasan Elementary School Annex from the Caragasan Elementary School, converting it into an independent elementary school to be known as Dimas Ogano Elementary School by Representative Chungalao.
To the Committee on Basic Education and Culture.
House Bill Number 9226, promoting anti-disinformation and responsible use of media, establishing for this purpose the National Council for Experts' Opinion by Representative Saveliano.
To the Committee on Public Information.
House Bill Number 9227, Magna Carta for the Advancement of Agricultural Workers' Welfare Act by Representative Saveliano.
To the Committee on Agriculture and Food.
House Bill Number 9228, granting hazard pay to all court sheriffs by Representative Saveliano.
To the Committee on Justice.
House Bill Number 9229, providing a nursing home for the abandoned and neglected senior citizens, establishing for this purpose a nursing home-like environment in every province in the Philippines by Representative Savellano.
to the Special Committee on Senior Citizens,
House Bill Number 9230, providing for stiffer penalties to certain acts of negligence and corruption during a state of public health emergency in the country and mandating the Office of the Ombudsman to prosecute such offenses with expediency by Representatives Villanueva Eduardo, Abante, Herrera D. Romero, Reyes, and Rivera.
to the Committee on Justice,
House Bill Number 9231, prohibiting commercial entities from tracking or identifying consumers via facial recognition technology and other biometric markers without their full knowledge and express consent by Representative Olivares.
to the Committee on Trade and Industry and the Committee of Information and Communications Technology,
House Bill 9232, amending Articles 333 and 344 and repealing Article 334 of the revised Penal Code, eliminating gender bias in adultery and concubinage by Representative Rodriguez.
to the Committee on Revision of Laws,
House Bill 9233, amending Section 4 of RA Number 10149 by Representative Rodriguez.
to the Committee on Government Enterprises and Privatization,
House Bill 9234, providing for the evaluation of public and private programs to reduce the rate of teenage pregnancy by Representative Rodriguez.
to the Committee on Youth and Sports Development,
House Bill numbers 9235 to 9237, establishing fish ports in certain barangays in the 1st District of Cagayan de Oro City by Representatives Rodriguez and Oyer-Relando.
to the Committee on Aquaculture and Fisheries Resources,
House Bill 9238, protecting senior citizens from violence, defining elder abuse, and prescribing penalties therefore by Representative Rodriguez.
to the Special Committee on Senior Citizens,
House Bill 9239, to reform the budget process by enforcing greater accountability in public financial management by Representative Rodriguez.
to the Committee on Appropriations,
House Bill 9240, establishing a national energy policy and regulatory framework for facilities utilizing waste-to-energy technologies by Representative Gatchalian.
to the Committee on Ecology and the Committee on Energy,
House Bill 9241, making the position of tourism officer mandatory in the municipal, city, and provincial levels by Representative Mariano Hernandez.
to the Committee on Local Government,
House Bill 9242, to further empower the members of the Sangguniang Kabataan by Representative Baronda.
to the Committee on Local Government,
House Bill 9243, granting additional benefits to PWDs by Representative Baronda.
to the Special Committee on Persons with Disabilities,
House Bill 9244, instituting a national land use policy by Representative Baronda.
to the Special Committee on Land Use,
House Bill 9245, strengthening the discount and privileges of senior citizens, PWDs, and students in digital transactions by Representative Suntay.
to the Committee on Banks and Financial Intermediaries,
House Bill 9246, mandating the use of gray water treatment system in public and private buildings by Representative Crisologo.
the Committee on Ecology,
House Bill numbers 9247 and 9248, establishing elementary schools in Cagayan de Oro City, Misamis Oriental by Representative Rodriguez.
to the Committee on Basic Education and Culture,
House Bill 9249, establishing a national high school in Kamaman-an, Cagayan de Oro City, Misamis Oriental, to be known as the Makapaya Barangay Kamaman-an National High School by Representative Rodriguez.
to the Committee on Basic Education and Culture,
House Bill 9250, establishing an integrated school in Sitio Palalan, Tablon, Cagayan de Oro City, Misamis Oriental, to be known as the Palalan Barangay Tablon Integrated School, by Representative Rodriguez.
To the Committee on Basic Education and Culture.
House Bill 9251, renaming the Urdaneta City Bypass Road in Urdaneta City, Pangasinan to Eduardo Cuanco Jr. Avenue by Representatives Kiko Estrella, Celeste, and Agabas.
To the Committee on Public Works and Highways.
House Bill 9252, mandating the administering of COVID-19 vaccine by Representative Barzaga.
To the Committee on Health.
House Bill 9254, establishing a power for the elderly in Davao del Sur by Representative Cagas.
To the Special Committee on Senior Citizens.
House Bill 9255, establishing the Special Economic Zone in West Aklan, creating for the purpose the West Aklan Special Economic Zone Authority by Representative Haresco.
To the Committee on Economic Affairs and the Committee on Trade and Industry.
House Bill 9256, creating the Local Pork Producers Competitiveness Enhancement Fund by Representative Kimbo.
To the Committee on Agriculture and Food.
House Bill 9257, prohibiting telecommunication companies from imposing expiration dates on mobile prepaid call and text cards and the forfeiture of load credits by Representative Castelo.
To the Committee on Information and Communications Technology.
House Bill 9258, mandating all television networks to air at least one regular program of purely educational content running for at least 50 hours per year by Representative Olivares.
To the Committee on Public Information.
House Bill 9259, further amending the charter of the Philippine Crop Insurance Corporation by Representative Salceda.
To the Committee on Government Enterprises and Privatization and the Committee on Agriculture and Food.
House Bill 9260, prohibiting ownership by electricity distribution utilities in electricity generation companies and retail electricity suppliers by Representatives Zarate, Gaite, and Colyamat.
To the Committee on Energy.
House Bill 9261, to educate healthcare providers and the public on biosimilar biological products and medical supplies by Representative Salceda.
To the Committee on Health.
House Bill 9262, providing a 100 peso daily wage subsidy in daily minimum wages of workers in the private sector by Representatives Gaite, Zarate, Colyamat, Castro, Franz, Brosas, and Elago.
To the Committee on Labor and Employment.
House Bill 9263, institutionalizing the income classification of provinces, cities, and municipalities by Representatives Deloso Montalia.
To the Committee on Local Government.
House Bill 9264, allowing the conversion of a municipality into a component city in a province that does not have an existing component city by Representative Deloso Montalia.
To the Committee on Local Government.
House Bill 9265, amending the mandate of the Bureau of Animal Industry, creating the National Biosafety Facility by Representative Salceda.
To the Committee on Agriculture and Food.
House Bill 9266, declaring the Tanap Avis Falls in Burgos, Ilocos Norte as an ecotourism destination by Representatives Fariñas Ria and Fariñas Rudy Cesar.
To the Committee on Tourism.
House Bill 9267, establishing a Marina Extension Office in Lawag City, Ilocos Norte by Representative Fariñas Ria and Fariñas Rudy Cesar.
To the Committee on Transportation.
House Bill 9270, converting the Ilagan-Divilacan Provincial Road in Isabela into a national road by Representative Albano.
To the Committee on Public Works and Highways.
House Bill 9271, creating a sustainable fiscal framework for the separation, retirement, and pension benefits of the military and uniformed services personnel by Representative Salceda.
To the Committee on National Defense.
House Bill 9273, to protect the forest rangers by providing the necessary training, equipment, and benefits by Representative Zubiri.
To the Committee on Natural Resources.
House Bill 9274, providing the Department of Agriculture a yearly increase based on its previous year's total budget for the next 3 years in its yearly allotment in the General Appropriations Act by Representative Zubiri.
To the Committee on Appropriations.
House Bill 9279, providing mandatory statutory benefits to all delivery riders, messengers, and couriers by Representative Castelo.
To the Committee on Labor and Employment.
House Bill 9280, institutionalizing an installment payment scheme on basic utility bills during calamities to be known as the Three Gives Law by Representative De Los Santos.
To the Committee on Social Services.
House Bill 9281, instituting the Magna Carta of Filipino Seafarers by Representative De Los Santos.
To the Committee on Local Government.
House Bill 9282, converting Malay Aklan into a component city to be known as the City of Malay by Representative Haresco.
To the Committee on Local Government.
House Bill 9283, establishing a senior citizens grievance desk in every barangay by Representative Tambunting.
To the Special Committee on Senior Citizens.
House Bill 9284, institutionalizing human rights as a separate and specialized subject in both basic and higher education by Representative Tambunting.
To the Committee on Basic Education and Culture and the Committee on Higher and Technical Education.
House Bill 9285, requiring traffic signal pole to be equipped with accessible pedestrian signals by Representative Tambunting.
To the Committee on Transportation.
House Bill 9286, integrating computer science in the curriculum of the K-12 program by Representative Tambunting.
To the Committee on Basic Education and Culture.
Resolutions. House Resolutions 1679, directing the Committee on Housing and Urban Development to inquire on the issuance of DILG Memo Circular Number 2021-031, which lifts the postponement of demolition and eviction activities amid the COVID-19 pandemic and state of national calamity, and to recommend its immediate withdrawal by Representatives Brosas, Zarate, Gaite, Colyamat, Castro France, and Elago.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1681, directing the appropriate committees to inquire on the status of implementation of pertinent laws and policies in line with the updated Philippine Development Plan 2017 to 2022 by Representative Legarda.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1682, urging the appropriate committee to inquire on the implementation of Executive Number 75, Series of 2019 in Pampanga, directing all departments, bureaus, offices, and instrumentalities of government to identify lands owned by the government devoted to or suitable for agriculture for distribution to qualified beneficiaries by Representative Macapagal Arroyo.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1683, condemning the arrest, trumped-up charges, torture, and other human rights violations committed against Rosanilia Lai Consad, Assistant Principal of San Vicente National High School, and Secretary of Alliance of Concerned Teachers, Region 13 Union, and urging the Committees on Human Rights and Justice to immediately investigate the same by Representative Castro France, Zarate, Gaite, Colyamat, Brosas, and Elago.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1684, directing the Committee on Health and other appropriate committees to inquire on the act of FDA of disallowing the production of ivermectin for human consumption as a drug for prevention and cure of COVID-19 by Representative Pineda.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1685, calling for an investigation by the Committee on Health regarding the possible use of ivermectin against COVID-19 by Representatives Defensor Michael and Ong Ronnie.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1686, expressing the congratulations and commendation of the House to Ms. Samantha Bernardo for earning the first runner-up position in Miss Grand International 2020 by Representative Gasataya.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1687, commending and recognizing Earth Kitchen and Hapag for being included in the collection of essence of Asia's local hero restaurants that embody the culinary spirit of the continent by Representative Reyes.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1688, urging the Committee of Human Rights to investigate the arrest of human rights worker Renalyn Tejero in Barangay Lapasan, Cagayan de Oro by Representatives Colyamat, Zarate, Gaite, Brosas, Castro France, and Elago.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1689, directing the Committee on Health to inquire on the use of saliva tests for COVID-19 by Representative Tan Angelina.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1690, resolution directing the Committee on Health to inquire on the alleged COVID-19 diagnostic testing fraud committed by unscrupulous individuals by Representative Tan Angelina.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1691, urging the Committee on Energy to inquire on the legal, operational impact and cost of electricity of mandating the National Transmission Corporation to act as the transmission system operator in off-grid areas by Representatives De Jesus, Dagook, Guya, and Abcas.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1692 to express profound sense of loss for the passing of Brother Glicerio B. Santos Jr., the General Auditor of the Iglesia Ni Cristo by Representative Castelo.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1693, expressing profound sympathy and condolences from the House to the bereaved family of OPM singer Claire de la Fuente by Representative Olivares.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1694, urging President Duterte to direct the repurposing of inoperative hotels and other accommodation facilities to host mild COVID patients and/or other non-COVID patients to decongest hospitals in Metro Manila by Representative Suntay.
To the Committee on Health.
House Resolution 1695 to honor the late Crispolo Jun Icban Jr. for his lifetime contribution to Philippine journalism by Representative Defensor Michael.
To the Committee on Public Information.
House Resolution 1696 directing the Committee on Trade and Industry to investigate the proliferation of unregulated and illegal products available online and the inappropriate, lewd, and obscene marketing tactics employed by online sellers by Representative Gatchalian.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1697, urging the Committee on Human Rights to investigate the death of Darren Manaog Peñaredondo after allegedly being forced to do 300 body pump exercises by police as punishment for curfew violation in General Trias, Cavite, by Representatives Colyamat, Zarate, and Gaite.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1699, urging the appropriate committee to inquire on the implementation of Executive Order Number 75, Series of 2019, directing all departments, bureaus, offices, and instrumentalities of government to identify lands owned by the government devoted to or suitable for agriculture for distribution to qualified beneficiaries by Representative Barba.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1700, directing the proper committee to inquire on the presence of Chinese vessels at the Julian Felipe Reef, located west of Batarasa, Palawan, and for the immediate adoption of remedial measures to address the unauthorized, continued, and increasing presence of Chinese vessels in our exclusive economic zone in the West Philippine Sea by Representative Abueg Saldivar.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1701, urging the DOH and DPWH to expedite the construction of modular hospitals to augment the hospital surge capacity for COVID-19 cases by Representative Tan Angelina.
To the Committee on Health.
House Resolution 1703, calling for the constitution of the National Integrated Cancer Control Council and for the DOH to formulate programs and policies for cancer prevention and control by Representative Nograles I.
To the Committee on Health.
House Resolution 1704, directing the appropriate committee to to investigate the compliance of concerned public and private entities to provide health workers with all the benefits as mandated by law and effectiveness of measures instituted by various agencies to address the health pandemic, including preparedness on vaccine administration, by Representative Lopez.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1705, urging the DOTR to review the motor vehicle user's charge imposed upon three-wheeled vehicles, by Representative Liachon.
To the Committee on Ways and Means.
House Resolution 1706, urging LGUs to prioritize energy sector frontliners and other essential workers who would want to be vaccinated and immunized against COVID-19 through the vaccination and immunization program of the government, by Representatives De Jesus, the Gook, Guya, and EBCAS.
The Committee on Health.
House Resolution 1707, expressing the sense of the House to strongly protest and condemn the harassment of Filipinos by elements from the Coast Guard, Navy, and militia of the People's Republic of China in the West Philippine Sea, by Representative Biason.
To the Committee on Foreign Affairs and the
House-
Special Committee on West Philippine Sea.
House Resolution 1708, urging the DFA and DTI to push for the Philippines to join the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, by Representative Rodriguez.
To the Committee on Foreign Affairs.
House Resolution 1709, congratulating and commending Mr. Robert Andres Bonta for being nominated as California's next Attorney General and for bringing pride to the Philippines by being the first Filipino-American to hold the post, by Representative Rodriguez.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1710, urging the DOF and BIR to extend the deadline for the filing of the 2020 income tax returns by at least 30 days, by Representative Rodriguez.
The Committee on Ways and Means.
House Resolution 1711, urging the Committee on Good Government and Public Accountability to inquire on the policies and guidelines of the DOH and FDA for the registration, utilization, manufacture, distribution, or sale of drug products for the coronavirus disease, particularly policies and guidelines which appear to be detrimental to public interest, by Representatives Velasco and Herrera D.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1712, urging the Committee on Human Rights to investigate the death of Hernani Nani Jimenez in Calamba, Laguna, by Representatives Curiamat, Zarate, and Gaite.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1713, urging the Committee on Human Rights to condemn and investigate the killings of activists in Southern Tagalog, particularly of lakas ng nagkakaisang manggagawa ng Fuji Electric Union President Dandy Miguel, by Representatives Gaite, Culiamat, Zarate, Brosas, Castro France, and Elago.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1714, urging the Committee on Civil Service and Professional Regulations and the Committee on Human Rights to condemn and investigate the recent red tagging of sandigan ng mga empleyadong nagkakaisa sa adhikain ng demokratikong organisasyon, Courage-affiliated government employees unions, and other public sector employees union by the NICA and NTF-LCAC, by Representatives Gaite, Zarate, Culiamat, Castro France, Brosas, and Elago.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1715, expressing profound sympathies and sincerest condolences of the House on the passing of His Royal Highness, the Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, by Representative Tambunting.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1717, urging the PNP to coordinate with the DOTR and PPA on the body camera system being currently utilized in various ports and passenger terminals in the country, by Representative Sarmiento.
To the Committee on Public Order and Safety.
House Resolution 1718, expressing the full solidarity of the House for the passage of Bayanihan 3, by Representative Robes.
To the Committee on Economic Affairs and the Committee on Social Services.
House Resolution 1719, condemning in the strongest terms the profiling of public school teachers committed by the DepEd and urging the Committees on Human Rights and Basic Education and Culture to immediately investigate violation of the Data Privacy Act of 2012 the Guidelines on the Right to Organize of Government Employees, the Magna Carta of Public School Teachers, and other laws, by Representatives Castro France, Zarate, Gaite, Curiamat, Brosas, and Ilago.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1720, urging the House Special Committee on North Luzon Growth Quadrangle to inquire on the need to accelerate the development of Northern Luzon, by Representative Sabeliano.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1721, strongly urging the CHED and DepEd to implement academic easing and no-fail policy in all educational institutions in light of distance learning woes amid the COVID-19 pandemic and historic economic crisis, by Representatives Ilago, Castro France, Zarate, Gaite, Culiamat, and Rosas.
To the Committee on Higher and Technical Education and the Committee on Basic Education and Culture.
House Resolution 1722, urging the DepEd and CHED to impose moratorium on tuition and other fee increases on all educational institutions amid historic health and economic crisis, by Representatives Ilago, Castro France, Zarate, Gaite, Culiamat, and Rosas.
To the Committee on Basic Education and Culture and the Committee on Higher and Technical Education.
House Resolution 1723, directing the Committee on Human Rights to investigate on the alleged harassment, profiling, and red tagging of community pantry volunteers and organizers, by Representatives Zarate, Gaite, Culiamat, Castro France, Brosas, and Ilago.
The Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1724, expressing profound condolences of the House on the demise of former Cotabato City Mayor and NHCP Executive Director Ludovico D. Badoy, by Representative Lopez.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1725, directing the CHR and NBI to investigate the red tagging of the organizers of community pantries, by Representative Rodriguez.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1726, urging the members of the House to reallocate the 16 billion pesos allotted for the NTF-LCAC's barangay development projects to subsidy programs under the DSWD and DOLE meant to provide financial support for unemployed Filipinos and underprivileged families, by Representative Abante.
To the Committee on Appropriations.
House Resolution 1727, urging the concerned national government agencies and LGUs to include PWDs with mobility impairment in the coverage of the house-to-house COVID-19 vaccination program, by Representative Vargas.
To the Committee on Health.
House Resolution 1728, directing the Committee on Public Accounts to inquire on the 19 billion fiscal year 2021 budget of the NTF-LCAC in relation to the questionable special allotment release orders worth 9.65 billion pesos issued by the DBM for the Task Force's support to Barangay Development Program, and to recommend immediate suspension of SARO issuances to NTF-LCAC's programs, activities, and projects, by Representatives Rosas, Zarate, Gaite, Culiamat, Castro France, and Ilago.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1729, strongly urging the appropriate committee to investigate the utilization of the 19.2 billion peso fund of the NTF-LCAC, by Representative Romero.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1730, urging the DOT to temporarily halt passenger flights to and from India and Pakistan due to the alarming surge of COVID-19 cases in said region, by Representative Castelo.
To the Committee on Tourism.
House Resolution 1731, urging the House to exercise its oversight powers to look into the implementation and the utilization of appropriated funds under the Bayanihan to Heal as One Act and the Bayanihan to Recover as One Act, by Representatives Cayetano, Alan Peter, Cayetano Maria, Laarni, Villaperte, Abu, Fernandez, Defensor Michael, and C. Alvarado.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1732, inquiring and investigating on the perennial reports of expired, overstocked, and nearly expired medicines that remain for years at the warehouses of the DOH to identify appropriate measures to prevent any such wastage of public resources in the future. Representatives Villanueva, Eduardo, and Rivera.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1733, directing the DOH to come up with guidelines that will allow LGUs to put up curbside or drive-through vaccination sites by Representative Castelo.
To the Committee on Health.
House Resolution 1734, urging the Committee on Human Rights to investigate the reported harassment and profiling of organizers and volunteers of community pantries and the alleged PNP copycat barangayanihan with planted and pre-selected beneficiaries by Representatives Gaite, Zarate, Culiamat, Castro France, Brosas, and Elago.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution Number 1735, directing the Committee on Trade and Industry to investigate the alleged preference of imported over locally made personal protective equipment by Representatives Zarate, Gaite, Culiamat, Castro France, Brosas, and Elago.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1736, expressing profound sympathies and sincerest condolences of the House to the bereaved family of the late PLLO Secretary Adelino Adi Sitoy by Representative Tambunting.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1737, expressing profound sympathies and sincerest condolences of the House to the bereaved family of the Honorable Douglas S. Hagedorn, former representative of the 3rd District of Palawan in the 17th Congress by Representative Tambunting.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1738, expressing the profound sympathies and sincerest condolences of the House to the bereaved family of the Special Envoy to Malaysia and former DILG Undersecretary Wencelito Andenar by Representative
To
Tambunting.
the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1739, expressing well wishes and congratulations to His Eminence Jose F. Cardinal Advincula on his appointment as the 33rd Archbishop of Manila by Representative Tambunting.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1740, urging the Committee on Human Rights to investigate the killing of John Heredia, Pilar Town Municipal Administrator, cultural worker, and former chairperson of the National Union of Journalists of the Philippines, Capiz Chapter, in Rojas City, Capiz, by Representatives Culiamat, Zarate, Gaite, Brosas, Castro France, and Elago.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1741, urging the Committee on Human Rights to investigate and arrest the arrest of Bayan Bicol Secretary General Pastor Dan Balucio, Anakbayan Jovenes, spokesperson Sasa Santa Rosa, and Youth Act Now Against Tyranny spokesperson Justin Mesias in Bicol by Representatives Culiamat, Zarate, Gaite, Brosas, Castro France, and Elago.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1742, expressing profound condolences of the House on the demise of former Commissioner of the Philippine Sports Commission and former Chairman of the Games and Amusements Board, Dominador R. Cepeda Jr., by Representative Lopez.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1743, expressing profound condolences of the House on the demise of former Philippine Sports Commissioner Celso Dairit, by Representative Lopez.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1744, calling for an investigation by the Committee on Justice regarding the continued use of remdesivir in the treatment of COVID-19 cases, by Representative Defensor Michael.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1746, congratulating and commending the UST Faculty of Medicine and Surgery on its sesquicentennial anniversary and for its considerable contribution to the development of medical and healthcare educational institutions in the country, by Representative Velasco.
The Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1747, commending and congratulating Lieutenant General Guillermo Elazar for being appointed as the 26th Chief of the PNP, by Representative Castelo.
The Committee on Public Order and Safety.
House Resolution 1748, commemorating the 135th birth anniversary of Brother Felix Y. Manalo, the Messenger of God from the Far East and the first Executive Minister of the Iglesia ni Cristo, by Representative Castelo.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1749, commemorating the 135th birth anniversary of the founder and first Executive Minister of Iglesia ni Cristo, Brother Felix Y. Manalo, by Representative Lopez.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1751, calling to inquire on alleged irregularities and setbacks on the free Wi-Fi internet access in public places project implemented by the DICT that marred the project and gravely affected the delivery of service to the Filipino people, by Representatives Aglipay, Barba, Dalog, and Sanchez.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Joint Resolution 36, directing all national government agencies, attached offices, and bureaus, and the LGUs to impose a moratorium on all demolition and eviction activities amid the COVID-19 pandemic and amid the continuing state of national calamity, by Representatives Brosas, Zarate, Gaite, Culiamat, Castro Franz, and Elago.
To the Committee on Housing and Urban Development.
House Joint Resolution 37, to immediately terminate or withdraw Executive Order Number 1280 of 2021, temporarily modifying the rates of import duty on fresh, chilled, or frozen pork meat, as well as to reject the staggering expansion of the minimum access volume of pork imports, by Representatives Zarate, Arenas, Belmonte, Brosas, Kabatbat, Castro Franz, Culiamat, Defensor Lawrence, Elago, Erice, Gaite, Garin, Janet, Heron, Flores, Lagman, and Roman.
To the Committee on Ways and Means.
House Joint Resolution 38, revoking Executive Order Number 128, which temporarily modifies the rate of import duty on fresh, chilled, or frozen meat of swine under the Customs Modernization and Tariff Act, and calling for the adoption, implementation, and pursuit of a more pro-Filipino hog raisers policy in view of the African swine fever outbreak in the industry, by Representatives Villanueva, Eduardo, and Abante.
To the Committee on Ways and Means.
Committee reports. Report numbers 899, 900, 908, 909, 954, and 956 to 958 of the Committees on Higher and Technical Education and Appropriations on House Bill numbers 9150, 9151, 9179, 9180, 9334, 9336, 9337, and 9342. Report numbers 901 to 903 of the Committees on Public Works and Highways and Appropriations on House Bill numbers 9153 and 9155. Report numbers 904, 933, and 946 of the Committees on Ways and Means and Appropriations on House Bill numbers 9171, 9306, and 9322. Report number 905, the Committees on Population and Family Relations and Appropriations on House Bill number 9175. Report number 906 of the Committee on Human Rights on House Bill number 9177. Report number 907 of the Committees on Micro, Small, and Medium Enterprise Development and Appropriations on House Bill number 9178. Report numbers 910 to 912 of the Committee on Public Information on House Bill numbers 9182, 9183, and House Resolution 1698. Report numbers 913 and 914 of the Committee on Overseas Workers' Affairs on House Resolution number 1702 and 1152. Report number 915, the Committees on Agriculture and Food and Appropriations on House Bill number 9205. Report numbers 916 and 948 to 953 of the Committees on Natural Resources and Appropriations on House Bill numbers 9206 and 9235 to 9330. Report number 917 of the Committee on Government Enterprises and Privatization on House Bill number 9215. Report number 918 of the Committees on Civil Service and Professional Regulation and Appropriations on House Bill number 9216. Report numbers 919 and 944 of the Committee on Basic Education and Culture on House Resolution numbers 1716 and 1757. Report numbers 920 and 921 of the Committee on Natural Resources on House Bill numbers 9253 and 9268. Report number 922 of the Committee on Revision of Laws on House Bill number 9269. Report number 923 of the Committee on Legislative Franchises on House Bill number 9272. Report numbers 924 to 927 of the Committees on Tourism and Appropriations on House Bill numbers 9275 to 9278. Report number 928 of the Committee on Ecology on House Bill number 9300. Report number 929 of the Committees on Higher and Technical Education, Appropriations and Ways and Means on House Bill number 9301. Report numbers 930 and 931 of the Committees on Health and Appropriations on House Bill numbers 9302 and 9303. Report number 932 of the Committee on Science and Technology on House Resolution number 1745. Report number 934 and 935 of the Committee on Justice on House Bill numbers 9307 and 9308. Report number 936 of the Committee on Aquaculture and Fisheries Resources on House Resolution 1750. Report number 937 of the Committee on Ways and Means on House Resolution 227. Report number 938 of the Committees on Higher and Technical Education, Civil Service and Professional Regulation and Appropriations on House Bill number 9311. Report numbers 939 to 942 of the Committees on Justice and National Defense and Security on House Concurrent Resolution numbers 12 to 15. Report number 943 of the Committee on Suffrage and Electoral Reforms on House Bill number 9315. Report number 945, the Committee on Cooperatives Development on House Resolution 1758. Report number 947 of the Committees on Energy, Trade and Industry and Appropriations on House Bill number 9323. Report number 955, the Committee on Poverty Alleviation on House Resolution 59. Report number 959 of the Committees on Banks and Financial Intermediaries and Ways and Means on House Bill number 9343.
The aforementioned committee reports are all referred to the Committee on Rules. And yes, may I alert the Secretariat that may I humbly request for the correction of referral of House Bill 9281 instead of to the Committee on Local Government to the Committee on Overseas Workers Affairs. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we call the roll of members.
The Secretary General is directed to call the roll.
Roll of members, Honorable Representatives Abante, Abaya, Abellanosa, Abu, Abueg Zaldivar, Abunda, Acop, Acosta, Acosta Alba, Adyong, Advincula, Agabas, Agarao, Aglipay, Aguinaldo, Albano, Almario, Alonte, Alvarez Franz, Alvarez Enaro, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amante Matba, Amatong, Angara, Aragones, Arbison, Arenas, Arroyo, Atienza, Aumentado, Babasa, Bagatsing, Balindong, Banyas Nograles, Barba, Barbers, Baronda, Barzaga, Baskug, Bautista, Bautista Bandigan, Belmonte, Benitez, Bernos, Biazon, Billones, Biron, Bolilla, Bondok, Bordado, Bravo, Brosas, Bulot, Bustos, Kabatbat, Kabotsan, Cabredo, Cagas, Calderon, Calixto, Caminero, Campos, Canama, Kawagdan, Cardema, Cari, Castelo, Castro Franz, Castro Fredenil, Cayetano Alan, Cayetano Larney, Celeste, Chato, Chipeco, Chungalao, Co Angelica, Co Elizaldi, Coanco, Colliantes, Crisologo, Cua, Quaresma, Cueva, Culyamat, Dagook, Dalipe, Dalog, Daza, De Jesus, De Venecia, Defensor Lawrence, Defensor Michael, De Los Santos, De Loso Montalia, Dimaporo Abdullah, Dimaporo Khalid, Duavit, Duhali, Duterte, Di Faustino Ino, Di Faustino Michael,
D. Ian, Ebcas, Ecleo, Elago, Enverga, Erice, Erigel, Ermita Buhain, Escudero, Espina, Espino, Estrella, Fariñas Ria, Fariñas Rudis, Cesar, Fernandez, Fernando, Ferrer Juliet, Ferrer Luis, Flores, Fortun, Fortuno, Frasco, Fuentebella, Gaite, Garbin, Garcia Jose Enrique, Garcia Pablo John, Garcia Vincent, Garin Janet, Garin Sharon, Gasataya, Gatchalian, Gato, Heron, Go Ed, Go Mark, Gonzaga, Gonzalez Aurelio, Gonzalez Neptali, Gonzalez Sandro, Goriseta, Guico, Gullias, Guya, Haresco, Hataman, Hernandez, Herrera D, Hoffer, Halushos, Javier, Jimenez, Ko Elisa, Ko Wilton, Konghun, Labad Labad, Lacson, Lacson Noel, Lagman, Lagon, Clara, Lazatin, Liachon, Legarda, Lim, Lim Kaichong, Lopez, Loyola, Lusotan, Macapagal Arroyo, Maceda, Madrona, Malapitan, Mangawang, Mangudadatu, Marcoleta, Mariano Hernandez, Mariño, Marquez, Martinez, Matba, Matugas, Mendoza, Mercado, Momo, Natividad Nagaño, Nava, Nieto, Noel, Nograles Jericho, Nograles Juan, Nolasco, Núñez Malañaon, Oamenal, Olivares, Ong Jose, Ong Ronnie, Ordanes, Ortega, Oano Dizon, Pacquiao Alberto, Pacquiao Rogelio, Padernos, Paduano, Palma, Pancho, Panotes, Peña, Pichay, Pimentel, Pineda, Plaza, Puno, Kimbo, Radaza, Ramirez Sato, Remulla, Revilla, Reyes, Rivera, Robes, Rodriguez, Roman, Romero, Romualdez Ferdinand Martin, Romualdez Yeda, Romualdo, Romulo, Roque, Sakdalan, Sagarbaria, Sakaluran, Salceda, Salimbangon, Salo, Sanchez, Sancopan, Santos Recto, Sarmiento, Saulog, Savellano, Siao, Silverio, Singson, Singson Mihan, Sinsuat, Swansing Estrelita, Swansing Horacio, Suarez Aleta, Suarez David, Suntay, C. Alvarado, Taduran, Talyado, Tambunting, Tan Alisa, Tan Angelina, Tan Samir, Tan Sheri, Tan Sherney, Tejada, Teves Arnolfo, Teves Jose, Tianco, Tolentino, Torres Gomez, Tulfo, Tupas, Tutor, T. Alan, T. Diego, Umali Alfonso, Umali Victoria, Unabia, Ungab, Uy Juliet, Uy Rolando, Valeriano, Valmayor, Vargas, Vargas Alfonso, Velasco, Veloso, Vergara, Villa, Villafuerte, Villanueva Eduardo, Villanueva Noel, Villar, Villaraza Suarez, Villarica, Violago, Yap Eric, Yap Victor, Yu, Zamora Ronaldo, Zamora Waikurat, Zarate Zubiri. Mr. Speaker, the roll call shows that 300 members responded to the call.
With 300 members responding to call, The chair declares the presence of a quorum. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we approve Journal number 19 dated March 22 and 25, 2021. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The journal number 19 dated March 22 and March 25, 2021 is hereby approved. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, today being a Monday and pursuant to our rules, I move that we open the privilege hour. So moved, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The privilege hour is open. Majority Leader.
I move to recognize Deputy Speaker Arnulfo Arnie A. Teves Jr., 3rd District, Negros Oriental, Mr. Speaker.
To the Honorable Deputy Speaker Arnie Teves from the 3rd District of Negros Oriental, you have now the floor. You may proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I stand here again today to raise an issue. Alam nyo, parati tayong nagrereklamo ng rice shortage. Isa dito yung kakulangan sa tubig. That's why Thailand and some other Asian countries, ang dami nilang bigas dahil ang dami nilang tubig. I think it was still during my first term that I requested for a dam project in my district. May nakita kasi akong area doon na maliit lang yung magagastos pero ang laki ng tubig na maiipon. It will be around 1,000 hectares of water. Nag-request ako sa NIA, tinulungan naman ako kaagad ni General Bisaya. In fact, I appreciate his swift action on the matter. Yung dating RM namin sa Region 7 ng NIA tumulong din. Ang hindi ko lang maintindihan, hanggang ngayon, 2021 na, yung FSDE, bali feasibility study, tsaka detailed engineering design, hindi pa rin natatapos. Tinanong ko kailan lang ang NIA dahil pumunta sila sa akin sa Dumaguete kung bakit nagkaganito. Ang sagot nila, ang bagal daw ng consultancy firm na kinuha nila. The name of the consultancy firm is Test Consultants Incorporated. This is the third party doing the FS and I think the DE for the said project. May nilaan na tayong 30 million pesos for this. Nirasunan pa nila ako na COVID daw kaya natagalan. Sabi ko, huwag niyo ako bibigyan ng ganyan na sagot. Dahil dapat tapos na yan, hindi pa nagka-COVID. Ngayon, ginagawa niyo pang rason yung COVID. Ang tanong, bakit ito inaalaw ng regional office ng NIA yung delay? Sumulat daw sila, tinatanong kung bakit na-delay. Para sa akin, it's not enough na sumulat kayo or sila. Dapat dito tinanggalan na to ng kontrata at i-blacklist na sa gobyerno itong Test Consultants Incorporated. I asked who's behind this. They mentioned a certain Padernal. Hindi ko nakuha yung first name. Trabaho na nila yun kunin yung first name at trabaho nila na i-follow up tong kontratang ito. Sa alam ko, parang bayad na itong kumpanya na ito. Tinanong ko nga, baka meron sa inyo dyan kasabwat ng kumpanyang ito or merong korupsyon na nangyayari dahil bakit nyo pinapabayaan na 2 taon ang delayed yung proyekto yung deliverables hindi pa nabibigay. Kung hindi nagkaroon ng delay, baka nasimula na yung construction ng dam na ito. And in a few years, nakaipon na ng tubig. In a few years, makakatulong na to sa rice supply ng bansa natin. If you look at the dams that were built in the previous administration, I think during the administration of President Marcos, all the areas na nilagyan ng dam, naging progressive yung agricultural production nila. In addition to that, pwede pa tayong mag-tap ng hydroelectric power from the dam's waters. Ang request ko, and in fact, I will write a resolution for investigation. No? Ipatawag natin tong test consultants at ang regional office ng NIA dito sa Kongreso para masagot nila kung bakit ito na-delay at hindi lang yun. Para sa akin, mas gusto ko na may mangyari kaysa magbigay lang sila ng rason. Mananawagan ako, please lang, tapusin nyo na to. Hindi to para sa akin, hindi lang to para sa distrito ko, kung hindi para ito sa lahat ng Pilipino. Maraming salamat. Good afternoon, everybody.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we refer the speech of the Honorable Congressman from Negros Oriental to the Committee on Rules for its appropriate action.
Is there any objection? The privileged speech of Deputy Speaker Arnie Teves is referred to the Committee on Rules. Majority Leader.
I now move that the gentle lady from the 2nd District of Marikina City, Honorable Stella Luz A. Kimbo, be recognized to avail of the privilege hour.
The Honorable Gentle Lady from Marikina is recognized. You have now the floor. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, good afternoon. 16 months into this pandemic, COVID-19 remains an immediate threat to Filipino lives. Over 1 million Filipinos have contracted the virus, while about 19,000 Filipino lives have been lost. The figures continue to rise, and the future is still uncertain. At kung malasin man at magkaroon ng COVID ang isang Pilipino, one of the biggest sources of uncertainty is the lack of healthcare financing. Sa ngayon, di lang tayo takot sa virus, takot din tayo dahil sa mga gastusin na bunga nito. Lalo na po kung hindi lang iisang miyembro ng pamilya ang kinakailangan i-confine, minsan naaabot ng milyon-milyong piso ang gagastusin ng pamilya para gumaling. This can easily send a working-class family into poverty. At kung hindi man mamatay sa sakit, baka naman mamatay sa gutom ang pamilya. Mr. Speaker, government is aware of how devastating the financial cost of healthcare can be. That is why we have an institution that is mandated to administer socialized health insurance. By design, we pay an insurance premium regularly, and in exchange, we get financial support for our hospital bill. Those that have the capacity to pay help shoulder the premiums of those who cannot pay, and all Filipinos are provided with some level of protection and comfort such that they are able to seek healthcare when needed without the fear of falling off the cliff and into poverty. This is the mandate of the Philippine Health Insurance Corporation, or PhilHealth. PhilHealth is mandated to provide financial risk protection to every Filipino. Kung makonfine sa ospital ang sino mang Pinoy, malaki-laki dapat ang parte ng PhilHealth sa bayarin, lalo na ngayong meron ng Universal Healthcare Law. If PhilHealth funds are well managed, no Filipino should worry about healthcare financing. But PhilHealth has a history of fund management failures and fraud. Last August, amidst the pandemic, we saw PhilHealth officials come to Congress yet again to respond to allegations of corruption and other anomalies in administering the National Health Insurance Program. Prime among these concerns is the Interim Reimbursement Mechanism, or IRM. Based on policy, this is a mechanism by which healthcare institutions, such as hospitals affected by a fortuitous event, are aided by PhilHealth so they can remain in operation. Mabuti po, Mr. Speaker, ang intensyon ng mekanismong ito. Sa katunayan, nagamit na ito noong panahon ng Yolanda at pagputok ng Bulkang Taal. But the erroneous policies that PhilHealth put in place to pursue this good intention did more harm than good. Through a congressional inquiry, we saw that even if the IRM was intended to help hospitals that will treat COVID-19 patients, funds were not allocated as such. The data showed that some regions with a low COVID-19 incidence actually received larger IRM funds than the COVID-19 hotspots. Some hospitals received IRM funds despite not having a single case of COVID-19, while others that were overwhelmed with cases lacked support. Isang dahilan dito ay nasabi mismo ng PhilHealth. The funds were based on historical claims and not COVID incidents. The allocation mechanism was flawed from the very beginning. Apart from allocation, the very design of the IRM lacked accountability and made it susceptible to potential abuse. Kung mabibigyan ng isang ospital ng IRM funds, pwedeng ipambili ng kahit na ano, pwedeng ipambayad ng sweldo, tapos tsaka na lang ililiquidate sa PhilHealth. In effect, it's like giving out a blank check for a zero-interest loan. While we recognize the intention behind this policy, the design potentially allows for the misuse of public funds. Imbes na mapunta sa may sakit, pwedeng mapunta ang pondo sa mga pasakit sa lipunan. Another major source of mismanagement is the implementation of the case rate system. When implemented properly, a case rate system can indeed help improve hospital efficiency, but it relies on a very accurate estimation of actual costs for all kinds of diseases. Kung merong fixed case rate, dapat malapit ito sa totoong gastos ng confinement at health services. Pero base sa congressional inquiry, dahil sa mali-maling case rates, ang mga bayad ng PhilHealth ay puro underpayment o di kaya overpayment. Kung overpayment, ang ibig sabihin, sobra ang bayad ng PhilHealth at sayang ang bayad na sana maaaring mapunta sa iba. Kung underpayment naman, ang ibig sabihin, may nalugi na ospital o merong out-of-pocket expenses ang pasyente. Naging issue din po ang case rates para sa COVID. We saw that PhilHealth's policy has been to allow even suspect or probable COVID cases to claim COVID case rates. Kahit hindi confirmed COVID case ang isang pasyente, pinayagan ng PhilHealth ang pag-claim ng COVID case rates na abot sa halos 800,000 pesos para sa pinakamalubhang kaso ng COVID. Essentially, parang itong legitimized upcasing. Again, we have an example of a COVID policy that may be subject to abuse. Isa rin po sa mga ikinagulat ko, Mr. Speaker, ay ang pahayag mula sa actuary ng PhilHealth na 1 taon na lamang ang itatagal ng PhilHealth. Dahil umano sa pandemya, mauubos ang pondo nito at mamamatay ang insurance program. But there was a gross miscalculation on PhilHealth's part of how much they would need to spend for benefit payments on COVID, as well as for all benefits in 2021. PhilHealth set aside 26.8 billion pesos for its estimate of 209,000 COVID cases last year, when, by my estimate, the true cost should be closer to only 3.3 billion pesos based on global data on hospitalization rates. For 2021, PhilHealth was projecting a total deficit or loss of 86 billion pesos. For 2021, PhilHealth will be receiving a budget equivalent to what it received in 2019. And in 2019, with the same budget, they recorded a net gain. Kaya't imposible naman na ang COVID ang magiging dahilan ng pagkalugi nila sa 2021 dahil ang expected spending nila para sa COVID ay 10 billion pesos lamang na kayang-kaya naman bayaran mula sa current funds ng PhilHealth. Yung konsulta package ba ang magiging dahilan ng pagkalugi ng PhilHealth? O yung malamyang pagkolekta ng premiums kaya ang magiging dahilan ng kanilang pagkalugi? Mr. Speaker, ilan lang ito sa mga tanong tungkol sa management ng pondo ng PhilHealth. Causing this kind of uncertainty is unacceptable, especially amidst a pandemic and an economic recession when people need social protection the most. Isipin na lang po natin ang reaksyon ng ordinaryong Pilipinong manggagawa sa balita na mawawala na ang pondo ng social health insurer. Buwan-buwan, kinakaltasan ang maliliit na sweldo pang-contribute sa PhilHealth. Tapos, bigla na lang mawawala ang PhilHealth? PhilHealth funds must be sufficient, Mr. Speaker, with proper management in place. Pero ilang taon na ba na naging issue ang fraud o korupsyon sa PhilHealth? Ilang beses na silang na-flag ng COA, parang na pong sirang plaka. Because of inefficient policies and anomalous practices, PhilHealth has been falling short of its mandate to protect the Filipino people from financial health risks. And because of the various issues that surfaced during the congressional inquiry, it became clear that there was a need to ensure better transparency and accountability in PhilHealth's use of funds. In this vein, a special provision in the 2021 General Appropriations Act requires PhilHealth to submit certain documents to Congress within the year. These documents include, number 1, a management audit report detailing policies and reforms to control fraudulent practices. Number 2, a fund viability plan including policies and reforms to increase premium collection rates and minimize the risks of deficit. And number 3, an undertaking by PhilHealth to undergo a third-party review of its actuarial projections and benefit packages by the first quarter of 2021 to ensure PhilHealth's effective implementation of its mandate and to reform benefit packages which may be underutilized or subject to fraud or abuse. Ang aking tanong po, ano nang nangyari sa mga requirements na ito? Natapos na ang first quarter ng 2021, nakapag-conduct na kaya ng review. At kahit na December 31 pa ang deadline, sana naman po ay balitaan ng PhilHealth ang Kongreso ukol sa mga reforms na ginagawa ng ahensya para sa kanilang miyembro, lalo na't patuloy pa rin ang pandemya ngayon 2021. And based on recent news, Mr. Speaker, it seems PhilHealth is still encountering problems in executing its mandate. Private hospitals have complained of PhilHealth's unsettled claims. According to the Private Hospitals Association of the Philippines, these unsettled charges have reached an estimated 28 billion pesos for March to December of 2020. Ang resulta po ng utang ng PhilHealth sa mga ospital, napilitan silang mag-trim down ng manpower dahil wala ng pera ang mga ospital para makapag-operate. Nabawasan na ang kwarto para sa may sakit, na-lay off pa ang mga health workers, at kinakabahan pa ang mga Pinoy na baka kulang ang hospital beds para sa COVID patients. In response, PhilHealth issued Circular Number 2021-0004 last month, which adopts a debit-credit payment method to help settle these pending payments, but private healthcare institutions continue to express concerns about pending payments. Mr. Speaker, while there is no final resolution on the problem brought by PhilHealth's failure to settle hospital claims, we cannot ignore the adverse effects of the weakening capacity of our health sector to combat the pandemic. And Mr. Speaker, as I speak, the pandemic rages on and more Filipinos are in need of medical care. We must do all we can to ensure that government is in a position to provide the best financial protection to the Filipino people and this includes whatever reforms are necessary to improve the management and operation of PhilHealth. In this light, Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, I am filing 2 resolutions to direct the House Committee on Good Government and Public Accountability to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the status of the National Health Insurance Program and the steps PhilHealth has undertaken to improve fund management and utilization. And second, to investigate the status of the unpaid benefit claims of private hospitals. I fervently ask for your support for these measures. Siguruhin po natin na hindi maghihirap ang Pilipino dahil lang sa kapabayaan ng PhilHealth. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we refer the privileged speech of Representative Stella Luz Kimbo of the 2nd District of Marikina City to the Committee on Rules.
Is there any objection? The Chair hears none. The privileged speech of Honorable Stella Kimbo of Marikina City is hereby referred to the Committee on Rules. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I request that we recognize that the Honorable Lady from the 4th District of Quezon, Representative Angelina Helen Tan, be recognized to avail of the remaining time of the privileged hour. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
The gentle lady from the 4th District of Quezon is recognized. You may proceed with your privileged speech. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker and distinguished colleagues in this august chamber, I rise on a matter of personal and collective privilege to speak about a very important and timely topic in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. Today, I would like to sound the clarion call for the lifting of the moratorium on nursing programs imposed by the Commission on Higher Education as a long-term solution to the scarcity of our human resources for health. This matter also hits close to home because before I became a legislator and a doctor, I was first a nurse. Mr. Speaker, in 2010, CHED Memorandum Order Number 32 was issued to impose a moratorium on the opening of all undergraduate and graduate programs in nursing, business administration, teacher education, hotel and restaurant management, and information technology, effective school year 2011 to 2012. The moratorium on nursing included the Bachelor of Science in Nursing, or BSN, Master of Arts, Master in Nursing, or MAN, MN, and Doctor of Philosophy in Nursing, or PhDN. Said moratorium was anchored on the proliferation of higher education institutions offering these undergraduate and graduate programs, which, if allowed to continue unabated, would result to the deterioration of the quality of graduates of these 5 higher education programs. At that time, the Department of Labor and Employment was of the opinion that the moratorium was intended to mitigate potential oversupply of graduates in certain disciplines and in the process to encourage incoming students to opt for courses that offer the best chances of employment after graduation. Mr. Speaker, the Philippine Nurses Association also supported the moratorium on nursing programs, claiming that as of 2010, up to 200,000 registered nurses were either unemployed or underemployed. The number of nursing schools had mushroomed in the country from 172 in 2000 to 491 in 2004 due to the increased demand for nurses in countries like United States and United Kingdom. Mr. Speaker, 10 years after the implementation of CMO number 32, and with our COVID-19 pandemic experience, it bears asking, is CMO number 32, particularly on nursing programs, still relevant? Should we not revisit it today? The World Health Organization on April 7, 2020, called for an urgent investment in nursing as the COVID-19 pandemic puts need for nurses into sharp relief. Mr. Speaker, but even before the COVID-19 pandemic, a global shortage of nurses was already projected as highlighted in a WHO report. The World Health Organization report, State of the World's Nursing 2020, projects that without action, there will be a shortfall of 4.6 million nurses worldwide by 2030. In the Philippines, the projected shortfall of nurses is expected to be 249,843 by 2030, unless greater investment is made now to retain them in the Philippine health sector. Dr. Takeshi Kasai, World Health Organization Regional Director for Western Pacific, has emphasized that governments across Western Pacific region must invest in strengthening their nursing workforce as an essential part of preparedness for health challenges, such as emerging infectious diseases, but also the health challenges brought about by climate change, aging populations, and a growing burden of non-communicable diseases. Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, the role of nurses in our healthcare system cannot be overemphasized, not only in delivering quality healthcare, but as well as in achieving sustainable development goals. They make critical contributions to the achievement of national and global targets related to a range of health priorities, including universal health care, mental health, and communicable and non-communicable diseases, emergency preparedness and response, patient safety, and delivery of integrated and people-centered care. As a matter of fact, pre-COVID-19 pandemic data shows that the world does not have a global nursing workforce commensurate with the universal health coverage and SDG targets. Over 80% of the world's nurses are found in countries that account for half of the world's population. The global shortage of nurses, estimated to be 6.6 million in 2016, had decreased slightly to 5.9 million nurses in 2018. Further, Mr. Speaker, the aforesaid report states that to address the shortage by 2030 in all countries, the total number of nursing graduates would need to increase by 80% per year on average, alongside an improved capacity to employ and retain these graduates. Without this increase, current trends indicate 36 million nurses by 2030, leaving a projected needs-based shortage of 5.7 million, primarily in African, Southeast Asia, and Eastern Mediterranean regions. The statistics show that nursing is the largest occupational group in health sector, accounting for approximately 59% of health professions. Mr. Speaker, allow me to emphasize that with a global shortage of almost 6 million nurses, there is a risk of international outflows of nurses can undermine the preparedness of some countries to meet healthcare demands. This risk could be exacerbated further during COVID-19 if existing deficits of nurses are worsened. We all know for the fact that Philippines is a top exporter of nurses worldwide. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, or OECD, reports that there are almost 240,000 Philippine-born nurses working in OECD countries. Outflow of nurses from the Philippines has been around 15,000 to 20,000 per annum in the past years, but the annual number of nurses who have passed the national licensing exam has dropped significantly from about 50,000 in 2012 to around 10,000 in 2018. Data from the PRC, or Professional Regulation Commission, supports this finding, showing that from an average of 63,887 nurses from 2000 to 2012, the average fell to just 10,132 nurses per annum, especially in the past 5 years. In 2020, we had 5,000 new registered nurses, 69 new nurses for the first quarter of 2021. Data from CHED also showed a decline in enrollment from an average of 461,981 enrollees in academic year 2006 to 2007, down to 37,000 in 2018. The number of enrollees before 2012 never fell before 100,000 per year, but from 2013 to present, the average was just about 50,000 enrollees. Correspondingly, the number of graduates, which averaged from 75,000 from 2004 to 2012, dropped to an average of 18,750 from 2013 to the present. Our 2016 to 2020 Human Resources for Health statistics as of December 31, 2020, shows that we have a total of 89,886 nurses, 34,840 of which are working in private hospitals, 30,396 in public hospitals, and 24,650 in primary health care, and a ratio of 8 to 9 nurses per 10,000 population. Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, given this backdrop and how it will potentially impact our healthcare system, I believe that now is the most opportune time for CHED to assess the relevance of CMO number 32. In fact, Mr. Speaker, this representation is urging the Commission on Higher Education to allow other higher educational institutions to open new nursing programs to enable us to produce more nurses. Our country's health system capacity was tested to the brim during this pandemic, our health human resources bearing the brunt. In particular, our COVID-19 experience has exposed the vulnerabilities of the supply of nurses, both at the local and international arena. Its impact at the country level has been more pronounced. Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, I therefore call upon the leadership of this chamber to look into this urgent matter and urge the Commission on Higher Education to lift the moratorium as contained in CMO number 32, specifically on nursing programs, in as much as it involves our health human resource, which is very critical in light of our COVID-19 experience and our response to future pandemics. Maraming salamat at magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we refer the speech of the Honorable Angelina Helen Tan to the Committee on Rules for its appropriate action.
Is there any objection? The Chair hears none. The speech of Congresswoman Helen Tan is referred to the Committee on Rules. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize Representative Sergio Nagop of the party list APEC for his privileged speech. I so move, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Nagop from APEC party list is recognized. You have now the floor. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Distinguished colleagues from the plenary, and to those joining us virtually via video conference, to the Filipino people watching us live, a pleasant afternoon to all of us. Mr. Speaker, I speak before you on a matter of personal and collective privilege. Recent events have come to light that several actions and directives of the National Electrification Administration Board of Administrators, or NIA-BUA, are unhelpful and detrimental to the welfare of the electric cooperatives and the member consumer owners, or the people that we are serving. Mr. Speaker, recently, the NIA Board of Administrators has issued additional requirements on the processing and approval of loans of electric cooperatives. They are now requiring that any loans applied by the electric cooperatives should be approved on the annual General Membership Assembly and by the member consumer owners, whether those loans have rates or no rates impact. This is unnecessary and costly to the member consumer owners. Based on the Energy Regulatory Commission's rules and guidelines in the application of capital expenditures or CAPEX projects, it states that consent of the member consumer owners will only be required if such loans will affect the rates, since the member consumer owners are the ones who will shoulder the cost. However, if it has no impact on the rates, it does not require an approval from the General Assembly. Mr. Speaker, para po sa kaalaman ng lahat, ang tinatawag po na AGMA or Annual General Membership Assembly ay ang taunang pagpupulong ng mga membro konsumante may-ari ng electric cooperatives, kung saan pag-uusapan at aaprubahan ang mga bagay na nakakaapekto sa bayarin at kalagayan ng kuryente sa kanilang lugar. Ang pag-organisa ng taunang pagpupulong po na ito ay may kaukulang gastusin. At kung susundin ang bagong requirement ng NIA Board of Administrators, magiging magastos po ito para sa mga membro konsumante may-ari ng mga electric cooperative. Sapagkat kakailanganin ang paulit-ulit na pagpupulong para sa bawat capital expenditures at kaukulang loans na gagastusin dito. Kahit ito ay hindi nakakaapekto sa kanilang bayarin o walang sisingilin na dagdag bayarin. Mr. Speaker, kung ang kanilang intensyon ay para sa karagdagang requirement na ito ay para sa transparency na siyang justification, matagal na pong transparent ang lahat ng dokumento at aktibidades ng mga electric cooperatives. The electric cooperatives are strictly compliant with various guidelines issued by the Energy Regulatory Commission with regards to their capital expenditures applications, such as posting in the franchise area and widely disseminating information on the proposed CAPEX projects that they are going to file with the ERC. And the copies of this CAPEX plan application, together with the accompanying documents, will also be posted in all the local government units, municipalities, cities, and provinces, and to the legislative bodies of the franchise area, because it is a requirement of the Energy Regulatory Commission that before acting on the application, the electric cooperatives concerned must submit to them a certification of all the uh, uh, legislative bodies within the local government units of their franchise area. So napaka-transparent na po. Maliban po sa posibilidad na karagdagang gastusin, ang pag-require ng annual General Membership Assembly approval ng bawat CAPEX at loan ay maaaring magiging magdulot din ng pagka-delay ng mga proyekto or capital expenditures ng mga kooperatiba na para sa maintenance at improvement ng kanilang mga infrastruktura. Imbes na mapabilis ang pagsasagawa ng mga pasilidad para sa ikagaganda ng serbisyo sa mga konsumante, ay mapilitan pa sila na maghintay ng mas matagal at pasanin ang karagdagang gastusin upang masunod lamang ang walang kwentang karagdagang requirement na ito. Kung halimbawa, Mr. Speaker, ang capital expenditures na pinail ay para mapalitan ang mga lumang poste, ay para ma-address yung overloaded substation, low voltage, ay kung ito po ang susundin, baka matumba na po yung mga poste na dapat papalitan. Hindi pa po maaprubahan ng ERC yung pinail na capital expenditures project. At baka hindi na po dahil sa mababang voltahe, baka hindi na po iilaw yung mga ilaw sa tahanan ng mga taong siniservisyohan ng mga elektriko. Dahil nadidili po yung pagpapalit ng mga substation at nag-overload na, ay baka po puputok na yung mga substation at mawala ng ilaw yung area served by that substation. Mr. Speaker, it is crystal clear that this recent directive by the Board of Administrators of NIA lacks wisdom and deeper understanding of the operation of the electric cooperative and the overall repercussions to the welfare of the people they are serving. Clearly, the recent actions of NIA can be characterized as micromanaging and controlling the operations of the electric cooperatives. I will call this an overreaching. It is overreaching its powers in the affairs of the electric cooperatives, when in fact, Republic Act 10531, amending Presidential Decree 269, already taken out the power of the Board of Administrators to control the electric cooperative. It was only merely replaced with the authority to supervise. Hindi na po supervision yung ginagawa nila. At ang nakakalungkot pa, Mr. Speaker, ay para bagang, with all due respect sa BUA, hindi sila nakakaintindi sa technical implications ng mga ginagawa nila. And it is understandably tama dahil hindi naman po sila mga electrical engineer. Na-appoint lang po sila sa BUA. As the representative, Mr. Speaker, of the 121 electric cooperatives with 14 million, more than 14 million member consumer owners being served, I stand with conviction, together with my colleagues in the power block, that this overreach of powers detrimental to the well-being of our constituents will not be tolerated. And we will defend the rights and interests of the electric cooperatives and the member consumer owners that deserve. We will definitely be filing the appropriate measures for this purpose. Maraming salamat po, Mr. Speaker, at magandang araw po sa ating lahat.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we refer the speech of the Honorable Tagook to the Committee on Rules for its appropriate action.
Is there any objection? The privileged speech of Congressman Dagoc of APIC Party List is referred to the Committee on Rules.
Mr. Speaker, I now move that the gentleman from Party List Bayan Muna, the Honorable Carlos Isaganeti Zarate, be recognized to avail of the privilege hour.
The Honorable Zarate is recognized. You have now the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Maraming salamat po. Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. Ginoong Speaker, sa loob ng 4 na taon, 10 buwan, 18 araw o halos mahiging maglilimang taon ng panunungkulan ni Pangulong Duterte, wala pa ring sariling lupa ang maraming mga magsasaka. Hindi pa rin makakapalaot ang ating maraming mga mangingisda sa sarili nating teritoryo. Hindi pinagtatanggol ang soberanya ng bansa. Tuloy na bumubulusok ang ekonomiya ng bansa. Halos namamatay ang ating mga magsasaka ng palay dahil sa laganap na importasyon. Nalugi ang ating mga magbababoy dahil sa African swine fever, importasyon at pagbagsak ng taripa. Mas lalong nagmamahalan ang presyo ng mga bilihin. Habang wala pa ring sapat at nabubuhay na sahod ang ating mga manggagawa, maraming naluluging mga kumpanya at mga micro, small, and medium enterprises at milyon-milyon pa rin ang walang trabaho. Nadagdagan pa nga ang milyong-milyong ito na nawala ng hanap buhay dahil sa pagpapasara noong nakaraang taon sa isa sa pinakamalaking broadcast network ng ating bansa, ang ABS-CBN, kahit wala namang napatunayang paglabag nito sa anumang itinakda ng batas o patakaran ng iba't ibang mga ehensya. Higit sa lahat, Madam Speaker, pangakong napako pa rin ang pagtatapos ng ENDO. 1 taon, 2 buwan, 1 araw nang naka-lockdown o nasa iba't ibang level ng kwarantina ang mga Pilipino. Mahigit 1 milyon ang nagkakasakit ng COVID-19 na lagana pa rin sa ating buong bansa, kung saan mahigit 19,000 na, uulitin ko, Madam Speaker, ang namatay dahil sa sakit. Ngunit hanggang ngayon, wala pa ring free mass testing, seryosong contact tracing at libreng gamutan. Naantay pa rin natin ang milyon-milyon daw mga bakunang binili mula sa napakalaking pagkakautang natin sa iba't ibang mga ehensya. 22 milyong mga Pilipino samantala ang nagugutom. Walang pera, salat sa ayuda. Inutang ang kalakhan sa mga pondo para sa pambili natin ng bakuna. Pero sa kabila nitong lahat, Madam Speaker, at least meron tayong pera para sa artificial white beach sa Manila Bay, yung tinatawag nilang Dolomite Beach. Sa gitna ng krisis na pinalala ng pandemya ng COVID-19, hindi maaasahan ang tulong ng mahihirap na mamamayan ang pambansang gobyerno. Eka nga nila, Madam Speaker, kung hindi COVID-19, gutom ang papatay sa atin. Inabot ng mahigit 6 na buwan para maibigay ang ayuda sa ilalim ng Social Amelioration Program or SAP. Hindi na nga sapat ang 5,000 hanggang sa 8,000 ayuda, huling-huli at hindi pa lahat ang lubusang nakatanggap ng second tranche taliwas sa nakasaad sa batas. Dahil sa kagutuman at kawalan ng hanap buhay, marami ang umaasa sa ngayon naging malaganap na community pantries na naging inisyatiba ng ating mga kababayang sawa na at pagod na sa paghihintay sa aksyon ng ating pambansang pamahalaan. Kahit na may takot na mahawaan ng COVID-19 at kahit na sa sobrang init sa labas ng kanilang pamamahay, napipilitan ang mamamayang Pilipino na pumila sa pagkahaba-habang mga pilahan sa community pantries para lang may maiuwing pagkain para sa kanilang pamilya. Ngunit sa halip na namulat ang mata ng pamahalaan sa hinagpis ng bayan, sa hinagpis ng ating mga mamamayan, minamasama, niredtag at pinoprofile ang mga nagsimula ng community pantries sa kanilang mga lugar. Para sa National Task Force to End the Local Communist Armed Conflict, tila ba krimen ang pagkuha batay sa pangangailangan at pagbigay ayon sa kakayahan. Madam Speaker, mahal pa rin ang mga bilihin. Dagdag gastusin ang pagbili ng face mask at face shield para makaiwas sa sakit, lalo pa't napakamahal magkasakit sa panahong ito. Pati ang ibang mga bayarin tulad ng singil sa kuryente ay nagbabadyang magmamahal na rin. Gustuhin man ng mga Pilipino na hindi umasa sa napakakupad na tugon ng pamahalaan, hindi sapat ang kanilang kinikita. Kung may kinikita man sila. Sa panahon ngayon, atin ngang maitanong, paano mo nga naman mamagikin ang 282 to 537 pesos para sa gastusin kada araw? Sa usapin naman ng kalusugan, Madam Speaker, batay sa pinakahuling ulat ng Department of Health, umaabot na sa 1,143,963 na mga kababayan natin ang nagkasakit ng COVID-19. Bagamat 1,069,868 dito ay nakarecover na, napakalaking bilang ng ating mga kababayan ang namatay. Nasa 19,191 ang namatay nitong mahigit isang taong pananalasa ng COVID-19. Samantala, nasa 54,904 pa rin ang tinatawag nating mga active cases. Maging ang ating mga health workers, Madam Speaker, at ang ating mga frontliners ay hindi ligtas sa sakit na ito. Pinalala pa ito ng hindi sapat na pagbibigay sa kanila ng mga PPEs at mga kagamitan upang maproteksyonan ang kanilang sarili at ang kanilang mga inaalagaang mga pasyente. Hindi na nga sapat, tila pinapaboran pa ang imported na PPE kaysa mga lokal na gawa. Kaya ang panawagan natin, Madam Speaker, dinggin ang hinagpis at panawagan ng ating bayan. Huwag tayong magbubulag-bulagan. Mayroon tayong sinumpaang tungkulin na dapat pagserbisyuhan, paglingkuran ang mamamayang Pilipino. Isang malaking kataksilan ang pagbabaliwala sa kanilang mga kagalingan at expectations. Hindi joke-joke lang ang paghihirap ng ating bayan. Hindi joke-joke lang, Madam Speaker, ang pagkalam ng sikmura ng maraming Pilipino. Hindi joke-joke lang ang pagkakasakit at pagkamatay ng maraming pasyente dahil sa COVID-19. Hindi joke-joke lang ang dekadikadang panawagan nila para ng ating mga magsasaka para sa kanilang lupa. Hindi rin joke-joke lang ang pag-asa ng maraming kontraktual na mga manggagawa na mawakasan na ang endo sa pribado man o sa pampublikong sektor. Hindi joke-joke lang ang panawagan ng mga lokal na industriya na suportahan at tangkilikin ang sariling atin. Hindi joke-joke lang ang banta ng pananakop ng China sa ating mga teritoryo. At hindi rin joke-joke lang, Madam Speaker, ang patuloy pa ding pakikialam at impluensya ng Amerika sa ating mga patakaran ng ating bansa. Madam Speaker, hindi mapapatahimik ang hinagpis at paghihirap ng sambayanan sa pamamagitan ng pagsisiil sa kanilang mga karapatan. Muli, Madam Speaker, uulitin ko, dinggin ang hinagpis at panawagan ng ating bayan, ng ating mga mamamayan. Kalusugan, kabuhayan, karapatan at kasanrinlan ipaglaban. Maraming salamat, Madam Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move that we refer the speech of the Honorable Carlos Isagan Zarate to the Committee on Rules for its appropriate action.
Are there any objections? The chair hears none. The motion is approved.
Madam Speaker, I move that we terminate the privilege hour.
Are there any objections? Hearing none,
The privilege hour is now terminated. Majority Leader.
5 minutes suspension, Madam Speaker.
Session suspended. Majority Leader. Session resumed.
Madam Speaker, I move that we now proceed to the consideration of measures under the calendar of business. Under the calendar of business for the day, I move that we consider House Bill number 8850 under Committee Report number 786. For this purpose, Madam Speaker, may I request the Secretary General to read the title of the House Bill.
The Secretary General is hereby directed to read the title of the House Bill.
House Bill 8850, an act modernizing the Bureau of Immigration by defining its powers and functions, further professionalizing its organization, upgrading the compensation and benefits of its officials and employees, and appropriating funds therefore.
Majority Leader.
5 minutes suspension, Madam Speaker.
Session suspended. Session resumed.
Madam Speaker, I move to recognize the Honorable Rufus Rodriguez from the 2nd District of Cagayan de Oro for his sponsorship speech. So
The
moved,
Honorable
Madam Speaker.
Rufus Rodriguez is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, our Majority Leader, our distinguished colleagues. Dear colleagues, it is my distinct honor to sponsor before this August body House Bill number 8850 as contained in Committee Report number 786 entitled An Act Modernizing the Bureau of Immigration by defining its powers and functions, upgrading the compensation and benefits of its officials and employees, and appropriating funds therefore. This bill, Madam Speaker, has undergone strict scrutiny since the 14th Congress, where former colleague and grandfather of our colleague, the Honorable X.J. Romualdo, filed, this is Congressman late Loloy Romualdo, filed in 2007 the first bill harmonizing and rationalizing our The bill has undergone several changes, and after 14 years, we now have before this body the latest incarnation of the Immigration Modernization Act. This bill is the product of several discussions and debates at the committee level, and I am one of the principal sponsors of this measure, including, of course, the Honorable S.J. Romualdo and co-sponsor August body. Madam Speaker, this bill is the product of these discussions, and we have also the co-chair of the technical working group, Congressman Hedsel Lagman, together and with the help from our stakeholders and from the Bureau of Immigration, the Department of Justice, the Department of Foreign Affairs, and the Department of Budget and Management, we were able to fine-tune the provisions of this bill as its present form before this body today, especially upon the guidance of our committee chair of the Committee on Justice, the Honorable Justice Chairman Ching Veloso. Mr. Speaker, as former Immigration Commissioner, this bill is very close to my heart. I commiserate with my former colleagues in the Bureau of Immigration, giving their hard work, long hours, and insufficient compensation as compared to their counterparts in other countries. It is high time for Congress to modernize the Bureau and to upgrade the salaries and benefits of our hardworking men and women in the Bureau who are at the front lines when it comes to defending our nation at all points of entries across the country. In addition, Madam Speaker, among the objectives of this bill are the following: to comply with obligations and standards set by the international law in the admission or exclusion of foreign nationals. Second, to promote international order and justice by denying the use of Philippine territory to persons who are engaged or likely to engage in terrorism, human smuggling, and trafficking, criminal and other nefarious activities. To modernize structures and mechanisms necessary for the administration of immigration laws in keeping with the changing demands of the country's role in the global community. To professionalize the immigration service by instituting a rigid system of screening and selection of immigration officials and employees and promoting their development. To promote investments, trade and commerce, cultural exchanges, and other forms of friendly relations and cooperation. And to update and harmonize Philippine laws, rules, and regulations on immigration. Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, let us not wait another 14 years for our immigration officials and employees to receive their due. Let us not wait another 14 years for us to standardize and synergize our immigration laws and procedures, some of which have already been outdated and are out of touch with the current realities in the increasing globalized community of nations. Let us strengthen our Bureau of Immigration and empower our immigration officials, officers, and personnel so that we can be assured that our borders are safe from threats coming from all parts across the globe, and that all foreign nationals residing or traveling to our country would follow our laws and respect our people, our culture, and our land. Madam Speaker, I welcome any interpellations from any of our distinguished members present today. Daghang salamat.
Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move to suspend consideration of House Bill number 8850. So moved.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved.
Madam Speaker, I move to begin consideration of House Bill number 8957 as contained in Committee Report number 832. I request the Secretary General be directed to read the title of the House Bill. So moved.
The Secretary General is directed to read the title of the bill.
House Bill number 8957, an act establishing the Philippine Entrepreneurs Academy and appropriating funds therefor.
Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move to recognize the Honorable Representative Mark Go of the Lone District of Baguio for his sponsorship speech. So moved, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Mark Go is recognized.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and my esteemed colleagues in this august chamber. It's my honor and pleasure to sponsor House Bill 8957, or the proposed Philippine Entrepreneurs Academy Act, which I principally authored together with more than 85 co-authors. This measure, Mr. Speaker or Madam Speaker, establishes a learning institution to be known as the Philippine Entrepreneurs Academy, which shall be the government's mecca for entrepreneurship courses in college and graduate degree programs, as well as in short-term technical vocational diploma or certificate non-degree courses and modular trainings that will enhance the core competencies of individuals on entrepreneurship. The entrepreneurship courses under this bill shall also include entrepreneurship development in the fields of agriculture, trade, technology, and manufacturing. Madam Speaker, the curriculum and modules of the programs to be offered in the proposed Philippine Entrepreneurs Academy will be designed and developed following the competency-based curriculum model. These courses or programs will definitely equip our students with the necessary knowledge, skills, training, technology, and aptitude to thrive and prosper in the world of entrepreneurship, be it in the micro, small, and medium business enterprises or in related industries. Now, Madam Speaker, some may ask why this measure is still necessary when come to think of it. There are already many business and entrepreneurship courses being offered by other state universities and colleges, and even by private educational institutions all over the country. The answer, Madam Speaker, is that the other SUCs do not have a comprehensive array of business or entrepreneurial courses. The Philippine Entrepreneurship or Entrepreneurs Academy will have a more complete and comprehensive menu in business and entrepreneurial courses. More importantly, the proposed academy is envisioned to be the government counterpart of the Asian Institute of Management in producing the next wave of business and industry leaders, in molding titans of the industry, and in driving positive transformation in society. This is also being established in response to the need for world-class graduate entrepreneurship and business programs that will train and develop the growing number of young entrepreneurs in the country. It will also play a vital role in highlighting the relevance of entrepreneurship to job generation, as well as in promoting sustainable economic growth of the country. And just like the Asian Institute of Management, Madam Speaker and my dear colleagues, the business courses in the proposed academy will be housed under one roof, or shall we say one school, to be built within the Clark, Freeport, and Special Economic Zone located in the provinces of Pampanga and Tarlac. In the future, another campus will probably be put up in the city of Baguio as the need arises. However, unlike the Asian Institute of Management, which is a private institution and with high tuition fees being collected for its course offerings, the proposed Philippine Entrepreneurs Academy undergrad degree and technical vocational courses will be covered by Republic Act number 10931, or the Universal Access to Quality Tertiary Education Act, and will therefore be offered free of charge to qualified students. Also, Madam Speaker, while other SUCs offer a variety of courses on different fields, this academy will focus solely on entrepreneurship degrees, certificates, and diplomas. Madam Speaker, the academy is also mandated to formalize and integrate under a school system the non-formal entrepreneurship programs and short-term technical vocational courses of the TESDA, the Department of Trade and Industry, Department of Science and Technology, and other government agencies. If you will peruse the list of wealthy and progressive countries, you will realize that one thing common with them is their people have a strong historical and current proclivity for entrepreneurship. Thus, it is within this context that this measure has been conceptualized. Lastly, Madam Speaker, I am certain that this measure will ultimately inspire and increase entrepreneurship in our country, especially in this time of pandemic when many private companies were forced to close down and the employees were left jobless and empty-handed, and therefore need the motivation, creativity, guidance, and impetus to get back on their feet, earn a decent income again, and eventually succeed through various entrepreneurial activities. I urge everyone in this chamber to do our share in contributing to the upliftment of the lives of our fellow Filipinos and the improvement of our society by joining me in appealing for the immediate passage of this measure. Again, thank you very much, Madam Speaker and my esteemed colleagues.
Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move to suspend consideration of House Bill number 8957.
Are there any objections? Hearing none, the motion is approved.
Madam Speaker, I move for consideration of House Bill number 8320 contained in Committee Report number 859, Basic Education by Representative Roman Romulo, and request to direct the Secretary General to read the title of the bill. So moved, Madam Speaker.
Secretary General is directed to read the title of the bill.
House Bill number 8320, an act recognizing CCF Life Academy Foundation Incorporated as an educational institution of international character, granting certain prerogatives to hasten its growth as such and for other purposes.
Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move to recognize the distinguished gentleman from the Lone District of Pasig City, Representative Roman Romulo, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Roman Romulo is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, Majority Leader, to the members of this hallowed body. Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. I have the honor to present before this body House Bill number 8320, contained in Committee Report number 859, an act recognizing CCF Life Academy, Inc. as an educational institution. Madam Speaker, Majority Leader, members, I think more than ever, this COVID-19 pandemic has shown us that it is important for us to have educational institutions which are ready to provide quality education. CCF Life Academy Foundation has a background already with respect to their homeschooling. Under our current laws, it can be recognized either by the Department of Education or through legislation. The CCF Life Academy Foundation, Inc. has chosen that it go through the legislative mill. Mr. Speaker, members, I present to you this House Bill 8320. I am ready to answer any queries on this said House Bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker, Majority Leader.
Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move to suspend consideration of House Bill number 8320.
Are there any objections? The chair hears none. The motion is approved.
Madam Speaker, I move for the consideration of House Bill number 8991 and request to direct the Secretary General to read the title of the bill.
Secretary General is directed to read the title of the bill.
House Bill 8991, an act promoting transparent governance and instituting anti-corruption mechanisms in the operation of banks, amending for the purpose Republic Act number 1405, otherwise known as the Secrecy of Bank Deposits Law.
Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move to recognize my chairman in the Banks and Financial Intermediaries Committee, the distinguished gentleman from Quirino, Representative Juni Kua.
The Honorable Juni Kua is recognized.
Chairman, today I stand in this august chamber to sponsor a long overdue legislation. 66 years ago, in 1955, Republic Act 1405, or the law prohibiting disclosure of or inquiry into deposits with any banking institution, was enacted primarily to deter private hoarding of money, to boost the economy, and enhance state protection of privacy rights. Thereafter, Republic Act number 1405 was amended by Presidential Decree number 1792, which expanded the exceptions to the absolute confidentiality rule, including instances when the examination is made in the course of a special or general examination of a bank and is specifically authorized by the Monetary Board after being satisfied that there is reasonable ground to believe that a bank fraud or serious irregularity has been or is being committed, and that is necessary to look into the deposit to establish such fraud or irregularity. However, PD 1792 was later expressly repealed by Republic Act number 7653, otherwise known as the New Central Bank Act, effectively reinstating the version of Republic Act number 1405 prior to PD number 1792. However, decades after the enactment of the Republic Act number 1405, the financial sector landscape has evolved such that transactions and financial products became more complex. Financial technology made transaction easier to execute at the shortest possible time, and capital flowed freely into the Philippine economy. These innovations and ease of transactions enabled, necessitated, and encouraged Filipinos to place their money in the banks and spurred the economy to some extent. However, the objective of Republic Act 1405 to deter private hoarding and boost the economy are achieved. However, Republic Act number 1405, there are depositors who hide behind the cloak of deposit secrecy to perpetuate their ingenious ways of defrauding counterparties, regulators, or the government. Existing secrecy of bank deposit laws of the Philippines are more constraining for prudential supervision than similar laws in other jurisdictions. A review of 49 countries assessed against what is called Basel Core principles since 2012 shows that only one other country, and that is Lebanon, has similar limitations for prudential supervision as the Philippines. Thus, this limitation impedes transparent governance and anti-corruption mechanisms. Other jurisdictions with strong bank secrecy arrangements have provided their prudential authority with unrestricted access to all bank records. In well-known international financial centers, for example, like the Switzerland, Singapore, and Hong Kong, the prudential supervisors have the power to access all bank records, including depositor informations. This power, however, combined with clear and strong professional secrecy arrangement. Hence, to address the unintended consequences of the secrecy of bank deposit laws and heed the call of the global community for a more transparent financial system environment, Republic Act number 1405 should be amended, which will be limited only within the very narrow confines of banking supervision. This will effectively restore the authority of the Bangko Sentral to examine bank deposits under PD 1792. One of the significant amendments proposed in the bill is the inclusion of the inquiry or examination by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas in the exercise of its supervisory powers as one of the exceptions to the prohibition to examine, inquire, or look into deposits, provided that, number one, there is reasonable ground to believe that a fraud, serious irregularity, or unlawful activity has been or is being committed by the stockholder, owner, director, trustees, officer, or employee of an entity that is subject to the supervision or regulatory power of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, his representative or agent, or any individual in conspiracy with the aforementioned persons. And number two, it is necessary to look into the deposit to establish such fraud, irregularity, or unlawful activity. It is also suggested that the authority of the BSP to inquire or examine deposit shall apply in the course of its investigation of closed banks. The results of such inquiry and examination shall be for the exclusive use of the BSP and shall not be made available to any person or entity, whether public or private, except to the Securities and Exchange Commission, Philippine Deposit Insurance Corporation, Anti-Money Laundering Council, Department of Justice, and the courts. The foregoing exemptions are recommended to also apply to foreign currency deposits in banks operating in the Philippines, including offshore branches of domestic banks. In addition, the bill proposes to consider the use of the act for the persecution or harassment as one of the unlawful acts under the act. It is believed that the amendment to RA 1405 should not be used to facilitate harassment or malicious prosecution. Such will prevent to a great extent the indiscriminate disclosure by any person who may have obtained any information on deposits, thereby adversely affecting the privacy of a depositor. In view of these premises, the immediate passage of the bill is earnestly recommended. Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, Your Honors.
Thank you, distinguished sponsor. The Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to suspend consideration of House Bill number 8991.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Motion is approved. Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move for consideration of House Bill number 9004 and request and direct the Secretary General to read the title of the bill.
The Secretary General is hereby directed to read the title of the bill. Please proceed.
House Bill number 9004, an act institutionalizing the Lifelong Learning Development Framework, creating a Lifelong Learning Development Council, and appropriating funds therefore.
The Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to recognize the distinguished gentleman from the Lone District of Baguio City, the Chairman of the Committee on Higher Education, Representative Mark Go.
The distinguished Chairman of the Committee on Higher Education, is gentleman from Baguio City, is hereby recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm honored to sponsor House Bill 9004 under Committee Report number 871, an act institutionalizing the Lifelong Learning Development Framework, creating a Lifelong Learning Development Council, and appropriating funds therefore. This measure, Mr. Speaker, mandates the state to prescribe lifelong learning as a means to achieve a more sustainable development and promote universal literacy. Lifelong learning, which is also known as lifelong education, refers to a philosophy that recognizes learning as a continuum
and not confined to a particular period in life nor the school system, but takes place everywhere at all stages of life, from cradle to grave, as a conceptual framework and organizing principle for educational policy. Lifelong learning encompasses all modes of education and all types of systematic educational activities other than regular school curriculum, including supplementary education, graduate studies, and all forms of continuing education, basic literacy education for adults, ability enhancement education, culture and art education, book reading clubs, and citizens participation education. What we are institutionalizing here, Mr. Speaker, is not lifelong learning itself, but the framework to promote lifelong learning to enhance the learner's understanding of the world, improve the knowledge, skills, and quality of life of the population beyond what the traditional or standard formal educational system can accomplish, and eventually become a key driver of long-term economic growth of the country. Under the bill, Mr. Speaker, the Lifelong Learning Development Framework, or LLDF, shall describe and set the standards for the development of action components and desirable success measures for the promotion and implementation of lifelong learning in cities, municipalities, and lifelong educational institutions. The LLDF shall have as its objectives the promotion of literacy at all levels of society, as well as inclusive learning in the educational system. It also intends to revitalize learning in families and communities, facilitate learning for and in the workplace, extend the use of modern learning technologies, enhance the quality of learning, and foster a culture of learning throughout life. This bill, Mr. Speaker, also creates a Lifelong Learning Development Council which shall establish the LLDF and which shall designate a city or municipality as a learning city or learning municipality based on its proven capacity to carry out the component activities and attain the success measures in accordance with the provisions of this proposed law. It also shall develop guidelines for using the action components to assess if a city or municipality may qualify for designation as a learning city or municipality. Actually, Mr. Speaker, this concept of a learning city or learning municipality is not new to us. No less than the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, or UNESCO, spearheaded the first international conference on learning cities way back in 2013 and defined a learning city as a city which effectively mobilizes its resources in every sector to promote literacy at all levels of society and inclusive learning in the educational system, revitalize learning in families and communities, facilitate learning for and in the workplace, extend the use of modern learning technologies, enhance the quality of learning, and foster a culture of learning throughout life. All this, Mr. Speaker, have been adopted in the bill, as I had mentioned earlier, as part of the objectives of this lifelong learning development program. To motivate the local government units or LGUs, Mr. Speaker, and to sustain the initiative to promote lifelong learning education in the country, an LGU designated as a learning city or learning municipality shall enjoy additional support and funding for the establishment and operation of lifelong educational institutions, cultivation and posting of certified lifelong learning education teachers, development of lifelong education programs, establishment of community learning centers, and other projects to be conducted for the promotion of citizens' participation in lifelong education. Likewise, Mr. Speaker, the heads of LGUs designated as learning cities or learning municipalities in coordination with the council shall be required to guide and support activities that promote lifelong learning in the community, whether initiated by the LGU or by the private lifelong educational institutions. This proposed bill, Mr. Speaker, also provides that the state and the LGUs shall endeavor to enhance basic capabilities, including literacy for adults. Literacy education programs for adults shall be offered in designated schools within the learning cities and municipalities nationwide. Moreover, Mr. Speaker, the bill provides that private corporations, institutions, workplaces, and other similar establishments are encouraged to provide lifelong learning to their employees, conduct activities for its promotion, and give consideration to employees who enroll in graduate studies or in any form of lifelong learning and continuing education by allowing revised schedules and workloads without necessarily sacrificing the quality of work. The employers are also encouraged to provide scholarships and incentives to their employees who wish to pursue lifelong learning activities. To sum it up, Mr. Speaker, this measure, if enacted into law, will be a quantum leap in the promotion and development of learning, lifelong learning in the country. Thus, for all these reasons, Mr. Speaker, I urge my esteemed colleagues in this chamber to join me in seeking the immediate passage of this bill by the House of Representatives. Thank you very much at magandang hapon sa inyo lahat.
Thank you very much, Honorable Sponsor, the gentleman from the Lone District of Baguio City, the Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to suspend consideration of House Bill number 9004.
Just in case tawagin tayo, na i-ready ba yung yung PowerPoint?
Mr. Speaker, I move to suspend consideration of House Bill number 9004.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Motion is hereby approved. Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to suspend session for a few minutes.
Session suspended for a few minutes. Session resumed. The Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we now proceed with the additional reference of business and request that the Secretary General be directed to read the titles of the bills and resolutions on first reading, as well as communications and committee reports.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. The motion is hereby approved. The Secretary General, please proceed.
Additional reference of business. Messages from the Senate. Messages dated May 17, 2021, informing the House that the Senate on even date passed with amendments House Bill numbers 8664, 5944, and 5306.
To the Committee on Local Government. The Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the majority, I move to nominate and elect As chairperson of the Committee on Economic Affairs, the Honorable Sharon S. Garin, Vice, the Honorable Teodorico T. Haresco Jr. So moved, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Motion is hereby approved. The Honorable Sharon Karen Garin is hereby elected as the Chairman of the Committee on Economic Affairs. Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we are in receipt of the Bicameral Conference Committee report on the disagreeing provisions of House Bill number 8928 and Senate Bill number 1296, establishing the Philippine Energy Research and Policy Institute. Mr. Speaker, in accordance with our rules, I move that we ratify the said Bicameral Conference Committee report.
All those who are in favor, say aye. All those who are against, say nay. The ayes have it. Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we are in receipt of a message from the Senate informing the House that the Senate passed with amendments House Bill number 8664 entitled An Act Providing for the Reapportionment of the Province of Bataan into 3 legislative districts. We have been informed that the Committee on Local Government and the Honorable Jose Enrique S. Garcia III, sponsor and author of House Bill number 8664, respectively, have no objections to the amendments of the Senate to the said House Bill. Mr. Speaker, in accordance with the rules, I move that we concur with the Senate amendments to House Bill number 8664.
Those who are in favor, say aye. Those who are against, say nay. The ayes have it. Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the change of referral of House Bill numbers 7620, 8031, 8059, and 9089. All are measures which seek to provide mechanism for accelerated economic recovery and socio-economic relief from the Committee on Economic Affairs to the Committee on Economic Affairs and Social Services, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. The measures, House Bill numbers 7620, 8031, 8059, and 9089 are now hereby referred to the Committees on Economic Affairs and Social Services. Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to suspend session until 3 o'clock p.m. tomorrow, May 18, Mr. Speaker.
Session suspended until 3 p.m. May 18, Tuesday. Thank you. Ayos. Ay, pati ako, kunin nyo ha.
Sir, yes sir.
Baka kalahati lang.
Yes sir, ma'am. Ready?
All right.